love the sound of bass. I'm of Jamaican extraction. Dad used to bring back boxes of records, and I used to grab them from him, run to the front room and just play them. And my parents used to have these really cool parties, big speakers and loads of curry goat and food and hundreds of Jamaican people. There was this big speaker in the living room, and I used to sit inside the sort of bass scoop and just listen to the bass going through it.
Simon, there's no way you can have had as cool a musical education as Andrew did, can you?
Well, that's pretty cool. That does take some beating.
It's pretty good.
We learnt playing with other people and playing in the room together, so we almost religiously go around to the drummer's house and just jam for hours. No songs, just like playing grooves.
Maybe you don't understand what not having any talent's like. So I'll explain. I'll explain to you briefly. So, welcome to the Healthy Beast, Andrew Levy and Simon Bartholomew of the brand new Heavies. So how do we go from rock and roll lifestyle to this world of yoga and school runs? And Andrew, you're the one who's doing the yoga, is that right?
No, Roman. Roman's the name of my son. I always often call Simon Roman because we've known each other for so long.
But you could any lapses in the old brain there you can put down to the same thing.
Trauma.
I think it feels like it's more the familiarity or the endearment of the two very important people in my life. It's just Simon and my first son.
Because we've known each other how many years now?
46.
46 years is a long time.
46 years. Well, you know what the next question after that is. I'm looking at
you,
fine young gentleman. 46 years ago.
Possible?
So you
met when you were one.
Yeah.
No.
Well, 46 years. That's a little younger than I am. So how old were you at the time you were?
I'm not sure. I'm 50. Is that right? 46.
45, 46. I mean, we met at 11.
Okay, so you're
55.
You're in your middle 50s. You're looking, have to say,
very good on radio. Or
no, yeah, we're not filming this. I can lie all I want.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you do. You look good. You look good.
Feel good, actually.
He's looking at Simon right now. By the way.
I'm looking at the both of you. Well, seeing as you brought it up, Andrew.
Yes.
We met about a month or so ago, and you've noticeably lost weight.
Have I? Thank you so much. Because I'm bloated from last night. I retain water really easily, really badly, so I'm just losing a bit of water from the past few days. But thank you so much, because it does. You need a bit of encouragement.
No, but you're looking well. Is this partly due to getting back on stage and thinking of, because your costumes from the 90s were
tight.
They were part. They were part of the band, weren't they? You know, the posters, how you dressed up. So I guess. When you go back on the road, what's the kind of costume of choice? Are you kind of going back where you were, or
I have to avoid wearing too much black because that's what musicians wear, and it kind of puts you back into the background of the stage visually. So I'm trying to get out of wearing black, and the more weight I lose, the brighter the colours are going to get. So I'm at red right now. I had some red jeans on last week.
Well, it's quite funny because as the tour goes on, if you're on a longer tour, you get more used to it. You get a bit more confidence grows. I mean, as you get older, there's kind of issues of an expression I've coined called mutton dressed as glam. And so we all get older, but I imagine myself going to see someone I dearly love, Jimi Hendrix, and if he was like 55 or 60 or something, would I want him in like a Noel Edmonds jumper on a stool, or would I still want to see him with the tassels and the stuff? And I think I would want to see him in the tassels, even if he was older, and it's maybe inappropriate. Yeah, so I made a decision. I'm going to do that. I'm going to play the guitar with my teeth. Let's go crazy. Let's just have it. Because it's about how you feel inside, and that's what you've got to believe in and project that rather than be self-conscious. I think in life in general, whatever you do, it's really important not to be judged or too much, or think you're being judged. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's right. I think totally and you've kept the rock and roll hair, and I think you're right. You don't want to suddenly start dressing like an accountant, do you? Because
I like that, accountant.
Not that nothing against accountants. It's just the one you go for.
Why are there accountants out there?
One of my very close friends is an accountant, and he dresses accordingly. I don't think he'd mind me saying.
But tiny denim shorts, frayed at the edges.
You've met him.
There's a bit of cheek showing.
So I
know the guy.
Just the weekends.
All the characters are so typical. The little denim shorts, the
it's funny, isn't it?
tied in a knot, exposing the midriff.
It's funny because it is a uniform. When you go and see someone you're going to give all your money to and watch your money, you kind of would trust someone more if they're wearing trousers than tiny shorts. I think. I don't know.
Although the gusto of someone wearing tiny shorts, you might think, wow, this guy's, if they've got the track record and they can prove it, and the testimonials, which is quite funny with the denim short thing.
How do we go? What's this fixation with the tight shorts? Was this something? Just to add that you've had a long day.
I think that's what's been a long day. That's where it's going to end up on tour. I think by December we'll be wearing tiny shorts. I hope.
There's a guy called Levy who was in a pop group called Motorhead.
We don't need. I mean, I know you probably have to school me on rock and roll.
I kind
of
liked rock, and I'm a bit of a fan of Motorhead and stuff. And he played in Hawkwind, and I sort of liked all sorts of music. But there's a documentary, and he appears in it, and he's wearing these denim shorts, and it's really bad. And you shouldn't be wearing them. This isn't about denim shorts today.
Well, if I could steer it slightly in a different direction, pulling you back to something you said before, because you met when you were kids, right? And you must have had.
I was wearing little denim shorts.
I said gently steer. I see the gentle steering is not going to work. We're going to have to do a slightly firmer hand.
It's a steer on one of those big cows with the big
Andrew,
horns.
just to make it clear, this is Andrew I'm talking to now, or the sensible one, as I'm going to.
The shyer one.
The shyer one. Bass player, right? Now, why did you end up playing the bass? I play the guitar, the one with the 6-string guitar, not to any professional standard. Now, the bass. Did you kind of learn both guitars and opt for the easier one, or
partly laziness, partly the fact that I love the sound of bass. My parents, I'm of Jamaican extraction. My parents are both in Jamaica. My dad used to bring back boxes of records every time he went to see his grandma. So he used to walk in with a suitcase full of fruit back in the 70s and beautiful sweets and stuff like that, and then he'd take out a little 7-inch box of records, and I used to grab them from him and run to the front room and just play them. I used to be in there for the whole weekend, like every second, just listening, watching the records go around. And obviously reggae music is quite bass heavy, and my parents used to have these parties, really cool parties, and it was a lot of fun for the kids because we had to move all the furniture out of the living room upstairs in Mum and Dad's bedroom to put the speakers in. I had big speakers and loads of curry goat and food and hundreds of Jamaican people milling around the house. So we were known as the sort of party house.
Really?
Yeah, really? And I don't know where they got the sound system from, but there was this big speaker in the wardrobe size in the living room, and I used to sit inside the sort of bass scoop bit and just listen to the bass going through, and I think that's probably why I'm tuned into the bass a bit more. But I actually learnt it because I got given a bass by Jan's brother. Jan's the ex-drummer of the Brand New Heavies, and we were both having drum lessons at school, and we thought we can't make any music if we're both playing drums. So his brother gave me the bass, and I just taught myself really badly how to play, and I'm still trying to learn.
It was one of your bass line was one of the things of the band, that sound.
Definitely, yeah. We all complement each other, and we're very unique musicians because we're untrained. The three musicians of the original Brand New Heavies never really had proper lessons, and we kind of learned. I learned how to play by playing with other people. I rarely rehearse on my own. I learn songs on my own, but I don't rehearse. So we've got a very unique sound because we are sort of untrained, as it were.
Simon, there's no way you can have had as cool a musical education as a kid as Andrew did, can you?
Well, that's pretty cool. That does take some beating.
It's pretty good.
But my parents are separated, so I had quite an interesting. My dad was quite a purist, and he didn't have that many records, and he's a big fan of Louis Armstrong, but only from 1926 to 1928 or something, which is when he first started, and all the recordings are done on a gramophone. So you hear not a lot of bass, funnily enough. And amazing records, and he's an incredible player, really one of the best musicians of the last century, and he endured a lot of stuff and enjoyed musically. And he also liked this guy called Levy, who was a kind of folk blues guy, and he was very passionate about the music he played. So when he played a record, he would be like, listen to this, listen to that, listen. Wow, do you hear that? So it wasn't like background music, or I'm not sure how other people experience it. It's quite like that. And my mum, was into like Stevie Wonder and Lionel Hampton, and she'd take me to Pizza Express and things like that when I was a kid, sitting watching jazz and stuff. Funny that I got more into rock later on, really. But I kind of fell in love with rock and roll around the age of 11, something like that. Fortunately, Justin Fisher tipped me off to Mrs. Wardle, 1p a lesson, Wednesday at lunchtime, for lessons. And I learned, I loved rock and roll, and I learned like...
So what age were you when you first picked up a guitar? Do you remember?
Around 11 or something like 11 or 12. It's quite funny because having kids now, everyone's trying to get the little kids at 5 and 6 to sort of play the piano and everything like that. And I realised it didn't start till 5 years, 60 days later, really.
But did you...
It doesn't matter when you start.
Did
Not
you
that I'm that good.
Did you immediately get a feel for it? I'm doing a mime now. Because it might not come across.
Well, first of all, you're just trying to sound it out, aren't you? I can remember the sort of like the fingers hurting, and then you sort of, you know, like just to change to another chord quickly was an amazing thing, to go from C to G, you know, smoothly. And that would have been like Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly. Something like that.
And did your ear tune in?
And then I got the rhythm. You get the rhythm, yeah, a bit more. I guess, yeah. I don't know what his tuning in is.
No, but did you just... Because, okay, I'll tell you, I'll give you... Maybe you don't understand what not having any talent's like. So I'll explain. I'll explain to you briefly. So because you're talking about starting when you're 11. So I started when I was 27, something like that. So you play a chord. You go through what you're saying. The mechanics. Your fingers hurt. But you're not hearing very well whether you've got it right or wrong. This is the difficulty that other people might have. But maybe you just naturally, you know, you'd find yourself playing along with stuff, and it would come to you naturally. And this is why you went on, and not the only reason. You applied your talent, and you went on and became very successful. Well, yeah, possibly. But for other people, it's kind of like, oh, okay. That's and the person in the next room tells you you're playing it wrong, but you're so concentrating on the painful fingers and getting it right that you didn't go through any of this.
I think there's a lot of listening going on as well, because I listened. I didn't pick up a bass a guitar until I was 15. Just after the fifth form. But I've been listening. And listening to hours and hours. That's all I used to do at the weekend. And I know Simon has as well. You just listen and listen. And I think having that in your head when you're learning also is a good way of, you know, telling yourself whether you're playing it right or not. It's just having all that background information in your head from listening to music.
It's never been for us about being super skilled either, really. It's quite a lot about feel.
Rhythm and groove and feel.
Rhythm and groove and feel, rather than like shredding. You know, like people... can get super. It's almost like sport, like go for it, man. But we're more like, it's more like that. That's not what we're about.
More into dancing and playing. If you can't dance and play at the same time, then it's not working, is it, for the heavies?
Yeah, I guess, and that's the essence, isn't it? Because there's tons of people on the internet who can do amazing, as you say, athletic things with their hands.
Like 8-year-old girls in China are doing these drum things.
I've seen some of those, but they're all sat down. They should stand. No, not drummers, but yeah, it's 50% skill and another 50% in actually performing.
When the Heavies started, what's quite important, what you touched on earlier on, was that we learnt from just like playing really with each other. Like, I know that sounds bad, but my mate in school, Adam Poller, who you know, we'd have friends and we'd play guitars together. So one thing we would do was like All Along the Watchtower, because we're kind of into this sort of rock sort of thing at the time, and you know, we perform it to our mums and stuff like that. Aww. And someone would do a little solo, and then I haven't won that much. I'm not academically brilliant, but we did actually enter the school music competition, and amazingly actually won in the pop category.
Wow. And
we were very shocked because they were doing the announcement for it. And we went there at lunchtime, all sort of sitting like this, you know, like whatever. And we won, you know, so probably the only sort of... I'm one of those kids that doesn't win anything.
I didn't know that, actually. Because there's me and Jan and I, Jan, the ex-drummer, we didn't win, but we got asked to perform in the school assembly or something.
Never forget it.
This drumming thing we did, it's just percussion and drums.
So you were doing stuff separately at school before?
Well, the thing is, there was this funny thing, because Jan and Andrew were kind of into funk and stuff, and I was kind of into rock, but my rock was more varied than I think they really knew, because like Frank Zappa and Gong and things like that are really quite achieved musicians. But I think it's perceived that rock was like... Really?
Like that.
That's what
nice beat. But Simon you got me into rock. You got me into psychedelic gong and all this sort of stuff as well. And yeah, but maybe Simon didn't realise I liked it, but it was amazing to come out of a house of reggae to rock.
And a lot of I think as we both went in our own musical fields, we went into the music, like not just pop music, but we had older brothers and there's certain radio stations happening, like the John Peel show, and then like Kiss FM later on, and other sort of. I remember because Andrew was always like we went to the Wye Valley on a school trip once, and Andrew actually brought a radio and a car battery and these speakers, wiring stuff up in his bag like insane to try and play music. I remember listening to Al Jarreau.
Oh yeah, on a cassette. Yeah.
And I found all soul a bit sort of like a bit sort of like camp or kind of what you might view
as elevatory.
But then now I love all the musics, I really do. And it's but one of the things we did also, my point which I started off with making, was that we learnt playing with other people and playing in the room together. So we almost religiously go around to the drummer's house on Sundays and just jam for hours. No songs, just like playing grooves. And I think that's where we did a lot of damage.
And Andrew, sorry to interrupt you. Andrew, you said you didn't start playing till later, but were you already singing a lot? Because you got deep into your kind of music.
Never singing, no.
You weren't singing along?
No.
So you were just listening?
Just absorbing.
Yeah,
because
waiting.
Yes, exactly. Not knowing anything about the music industry or anything. But I used to take tap dance lessons. Can you believe that? On Saturday mornings, and my sisters used to do ballet and modern. Oh, what's the name?
We need to bring this into the show.
That was Simon snickering, by the way.
Yeah.
I might have raised a slight eyebrow. That's it. I was silent.
That's good. Tap's really cool.
From the tap and the ballet, where were you?
Sorry?
Tap, please continue. So
it's the Joyce Butler School of Dance. It was just off North Hills Avenue. So we all went. I was going there, and but it was like a whole dance sort of school there. And I don't know why I went there now. I can't remember why.
Because you didn't sing.
Your parents would have made you
sing. What performing until you were 15?
Yes,
you were just absorbing and planning your attack.
Yes.
But your only outlet was creative dance. More or less, right?
And I didn't like. Could you explain the rest of your quality using creative dance?
I hated it actually because I went for my mum's sake, but I didn't like because I was the only boy. Before the age where being the only boy in a room of girls would have been. I had a slightly different take on it back then, but I was probably a 10 or 11. But I think it did give me a little bit of confidence to go on stage. I think later on in life.
But once you started playing, that you suddenly thought maybe I can contribute to this musical genre rather than just absorbing it. But that didn't come till you were like 15.
Yeah, 16, 17 the first time I went on stage. I remember being so nervous. I stood with my back to the audience because I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to look at all these people 2 feet away from us and remember where to put my fingers on. So I turned my back to the audience and just got stuck in. And and it's different now, obviously, because we got famous in America. And in America, if you're not... Remember they said something to us just before we played in Los Angeles, our first gig or second gig. They said, you got to be really good in America, otherwise they'll throw stuff at you. I remember someone telling me that, and I was really kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. But that's
and I thought, we've got to be really good. So a couple of glasses of wine and just I used to copy not copy India, but use the fact that she's very confident in front of the crowd, and I just sort of picked up a few little things from her. And they love the music, so that gives you confidence as well. So
yeah, I see American singer who toured with Madonna.
Yeah.
And Al Jarreau, I think, isn't she? Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a BV backing vocal for Madonna, and so she would have seen that kind of level of show. She was an amazing mover and performer, and a great singer. So we were sort of like joining in a bit more movement than the shoegazers we originally were, like standing still.
But presumably, obviously, you have your first gig, but presumably as they get bigger and bigger, you're kind of being slowly eased in, or was there suddenly one big one where you're like, this was a nightmare?
Well, actually, we did suddenly get this gig with Simply Red, and we played at Wembley Stadium, and that was a big jump from smaller clubs to like 70,000 people at Old Trafford Cricket Ground. And we'd come back. We'd done one little tour of America, I think, because I had these I remember because my brother said that, or someone said these kids we were supporting Simply Red with a few other bands. I think we were on just before them, and someone said, stand up, someone wearing orange flares on the stage, and that was me. And I bought this thing in San Francisco, this mental tasseled suit. And I used to start playing with my teeth. I still occasionally do. And we had the bit of the stage at the back sort of thing. And the long bits that went out were really reserved for Simply Red, you know. And I went down the front and played with my teeth. And my guitar tech, so I said, how was that? And it said, you see this in your face when you walk back. I was like, I did it. Because it was big. I mean, suddenly there's no one for like 20, 30 feet in front of you. You know, in a big stadium, that's a different experience from like playing like this. Like having this conversation, you're like over there.
And it was that, I mean, just to fill that in, it was supporting Simply Red at Wembley Stadium. You think, oh, no one's going to come and see the support band. It was absolutely packed for us. Yeah, and amazing. We got an encore.
I'll
never forget
we did.
that. So,
absolutely,
yeah,
that was fuck, we're doing something right.
So it's a big confidence boost for us to do that.
So Andrew, what's it like going home after that gig? Do you remember?
I always think, was I single or going out? Well, because it gives me a context to see whether I go home or go clubbing. I think I was. I was probably single. So
what did we do?
I think we went out to a club. Max Beasley was doing that gig, I think.
It was before Max. That's.
Was it? Are you sure?
Oh, maybe not. Maybe.
I think it was with Max.
Really?
You probably went to Quiet Storm or some sort of nightclub or something like that. We usually go out after gigs.
Because the whole London scene had just kicked off with like one small club playing funk, which is where we had our sort of debut, playing a cassette we made in the drummer's bedroom on the dance floor, and people carried on dancing. And that spread to the WAG Club, and then all these clubs started playing funk and hip hop and like the music of the time, but house music hasn't even really happened then. So we would have been going out somewhere because we knew we just knew we were out all over London all the time. Like we'd go to parties where we found them, like the early warehouse parties and stuff like that.
And well behaved always, I expect.
It's quite well behaved. We wasn't too.
We never got arrested.
Never got
arrested.
That way. There, just for the record, the gentlemen are looking at each other now,
we didn't
wondering
even
what they should, what the code is.
There was a lot of dancing going on then. Early days was a lot of dancing. Wasn't there? Like Dingwalls, you went to dance, you know, towards the end of the sort of
just dancing it all out, getting it out.
Yeah. Well, just started, actually learning to dance, man. I never forget going to Dingwalls the first time, and like, there was like Patrick Forge and Giles Peterson playing jazz and stuff, and there's literally guys like holding one foot and jumping over it and running up the wall and spinning over, and, you know, I'd never danced before in my life, and I was sort of in the corner, like, walking from side to side like that. Now, you want to see me now. I don't know what's going on. So
we've covered how you're both looking well. How's the stage act evolved now?
It could do with some tweaking.
Tweaking.
But we don't rehearse the show necessarily. We rehearse the songs a little bit, and it's very fluid and very relaxed and sometimes quite vulnerable. But I think people see us on stage, and they really connect with us because it isn't too contrived or set out, and there's no tape, nothing, no backing tracks, nothing. It's all real. In between songs, we start these random, very funky little jams between the songs, just because we can. And people, I think the crowd, I think they like it, don't they?
I mean, we played recently, and we had a sort of a particular time slot, and instead of like playing all the songs, there was like, you've got like 2 minutes left. We had like 3 songs because we've been jamming and extending this trumpet solo and stuff. Like, what are we doing? But it's quite nice that we're not like, next song starts in 3 seconds, you know, and it's all like every routine is worked out. I mean, there's a level to it where we feel like we want to polish ourselves a bit more. But I think the wonder of watching the theatre and that energy, it's a bit like, you know, when television used to be live, you know, and stuff. Like, or going to the theatre, it's like that. It's like, you know, if you make a mistake, you see it, and it's kind of exciting to see that.
You never
makes it good.
So mid-90s, so 25 years since the kind of peak. Did you ever stop? Did you ever stop gigging? You've always, because now you're back. You're back big style now. Touring.
Yeah,
massive.
We have. We've never stopped really. On average, about 25 to 35 shows a year, constantly from the beginning of time.
Yeah, because I mean, someone said one of the interviews we did earlier on today, where someone's asking where have you been, and we've been playing shows all the time. But when you're not with a major label, and but often bands have their time. Many bands have their time, like the Libertines or whoever you might say. And then you have your fans, don't you? You carry on with your fans going to see you, and it'll be when you're in the pop charts, you'll have 50% of the crowd might be people who just like the song because it's in the charts. They're not so into the band, and then some will enjoy and stay with the band. Fortunately, with us, we've got other bands around us, like sort of Jamiroquai Incognito, and a whole kind of world of music that it leads you to, and a whole DJ scene, the whole scene acid jazz scene that happened is kind of part of our whole thing, I think. And people who like us will possibly go to a soul weekender, some of them, and be into music.
Have you when you're doing shows now, are you doing new stuff and old? You furtively reaching into a bag. We can
Sorry
mention
about
this,
that.
You can.
I've been asked
to Evian.
He's thirsty, and I'm giving him some Brancott.
Can you pass the Pringles?
I don't think there's anything wrong with having a small.
Just to wet the whistle. We've been in there all day.
At this, it's late in the afternoon. Once again, am I allowed to describe what you're doing? You're not.
Yes,
you're not snorting anything off the service. It's just a small vessel.
Funnily enough, Andrew and I don't see each other that often. Not often enough, and especially over lockdown, we didn't actually see each other for a long time. Yeah. And one thing about the band is a kind of for everyone, it's a unique world. It's like a surrogate family or something like that. And
every time we meet, it's an occasion to.
So this is
it's a social event rather than just work.
And we didn't really plan this, but we just thought we were feeling a bit peckish, so we ordered something from
Co-op
delivery.
I had some Pringles earlier,
so I'm drinking wine out of a Pringles.
I needed to ask you that question. I couldn't let it go. You seem to have full confidence in the Pringles container as a wine cup. I mean, I suppose it's.
Yeah.
Is it working? Is there any? Is there seeping?
Seepage.
Because they have a seal on top, don't they? Because Pringles, they obviously ship them all around the world.
I'd have thought your Pringles.
And it's a $1 billion industry.
Pringles is famously airtight. I'd have thought.
I think
whether the wine is. What you're going to have to do is probably hurry up with it because.
Yeah, that's
made in Penrithshire with Puros Scottish water. And these Pringles swam with salmons in a natural.
What, by the way, was there a thought process whereby you thought I can't drink out of the bottle because that would be really unclassy? Whereas if I pour it into this half pipe of Pringles,
it's the rim. Look, it's really. I know. I like the half pipe. I like that because that's it. Alan Partridge. I have a pipe of Pringles in there.
It's the starter. It's a half. Yeah, it's a small one.
Yeah.
Well, how has this is pertinent to my question. How has being sensible? I asked at the beginning, but you both dodged the question, and we talked about other things. But have you adapted to? Because I remember I wasn't. I'll ease you into it. Maybe even for me, I didn't have your rock and roll lifestyle. But even for me, getting a house and children, and it feels like it's a different part of your life, and it's wonderful. But it's a change for any person, and particularly someone who's had the life you've had. So, what's the hardest thing about
I think the transitioning from because I didn't have kids until I was 45, first child, and I got married at 45. I think I can't remember now. So, to be honest, we're pretty level-headed. When we do, there is a switch, and it takes around 3 or 4 days leading up to a gig. Because you have to be the guy on stage, and I find it not difficult, but I definitely noticed that I have to do it, and you can't just come from dropping kids off from school, dressing down and just trying to fit in to walking on stage and with a great big guitar around your neck and thousands of people expecting you to be like you were in the 90s. It takes time, and I think I've figured it out, but it does involve a visit to the bar, doesn't it? Sometimes, but just to get you in that kind of party mind state. But it's not difficult, but it is a thing. And
so when you're on tour,
I'm still trying to sort of figure out how to do it easily.
Because basically we were all aware of kind of you're very aware of what you eat and how close to a show you eat, and you don't want to be on stage like needing a wee or going to the loo. So you don't want to eat like half an hour before you go on stage. That would be. Sometimes we have to, but you always you are thinking about in the day, you know, what you're doing to get ready, how tired you are, whether you need a rest or if you've been up early and travelling and stuff. And we haven't actually been on a proper long tour for a while, and we are older now. There's no doubt about it.
No shunning it.
I'm actually that's a little bit like,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind someone just to pick me up and put me into bed, because you can be really tired before a show, and be tired for a reason from travelling and crazy hours. And you go on stage, you come off stage, and you want to go and hang out. You just pumped up, it pumps you up. It fills you full of energy, and then you want to go out, and then you go out, and then you haven't slept again when you should have gone to bed. You know, and it's like it's kind of you can see the sort of danger, but you know you can be.
But sleep is undoubtedly the most important thing ever to get that energy back. And it's funny because there's all these little things that we never. The worst thing to eat before going on stage is any carbohydrates. Pasta is the worst thing because it just kind of makes you feel a bit too full, and you're standing there with the guitar and everything. So pasta's a no-no. I always just stick to chicken or fish or you know, steak or something, and nothing else before the show, or just try and avoid eating altogether. It just makes you feel a bit more edgy, I think, if you're a little bit hungry before you go on.
It's funny because a lot of people say that because you think that having a few drinks, like you said, you maybe it's useful to go on stage, but those people that try and continue performing but try and be healthy, they say it's after that's difficult. It's not the before, because they can perform fine. It's what you do with that buzz when you finish.
Yeah,
how do you go back to it? How do you go back to the hotel room and go to sleep? It's difficult, I suppose, isn't it?
I find it really easy. I don't really.
You do now?
Yeah, I find it. I've always found it fairly okay, to be honest. Because directly after the show, we hang out for a good hour or so. So we're all hanging out and partying a little bit backstage.
Yeah.
But I love closing the door and then lying back on the bed. I love that.
I love it.
I always liked it. It's so good. I find it easy to just we call it the backstreet boogie. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah.
It's called a backstreet boogie, and basically, if you're out after a gig or you've been taken to a nightclub by the promoter or something, and you know you can't stay too late, but some of the band are on the dance floor, some of them are in the VIP lounge or the toilet, and you can't be bothered to go and say goodbye to everyone, so you just do your backstreet boogie and just jump out, get out quick, make it easy, because they're going to try and keep you in the club, basically. So backstreet boogie is very useful.
Yeah, never say goodbye. Just
is that what that song's about?
I said goodbye to you. Yeah, I was just. Don't you remember? Yeah. So are you going to be? Is it going to be night after night this time? And you're going to be kind of sensible and?
Thank God, no. So the best way to tour is just to tour at the weekends, and it's literally Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday and a Saturday. It's just it's great. Then you come home and recover and go back out.
That's why. So when you go away for like 2 or 3 weeks, that's when you really get. That's when you get some touring skills going on. Especially if you travel like to Japan and do 5 days there, the jet lag's just crazy. You know, you're waking up and there's just nowhere you can sleep. It's like 3 a.m, and then showtime. It's like you haven't slept for 10 hours and it's 3 a.m. when you should be fast asleep. And you're like, it's gonna be really like dig deep.
So it's Japan back in the day you did?
Yeah, even now.
Even now, we go there. Well, we used to go there every single year. And
what's it like performing in Japan?
The whole experience we've got down to a T. It's just the most incredible place. They treat us as if we're very, 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 very massive and famous. They just look after you. They just pick you up at the airport. They've got their little bus and takes you to the 5-star hotel, and all the food's incredible. And the sound quality and the technically they're bar none in Japan. I mean, you everything sounds perfect. If you ask for a 1972 Stratocaster amp or whatever, they'll get you the exact amp, and it'll be perfect condition, and it'll be in the same position, working perfectly every single night. It's just the most amazing place to play. They really appreciate music. You know,
what about the fans? Are they crazy fans?
Incredible fans, loyal. Simon's got a story. There's amazingly loyal fans. There's some people that we see every single year, and they sit and listen and dance. It's a jazz club that we play at quite a lot called the Blue Note, and there's dinner and you listen to the Brand New Heavies and stuff, and they're not allowed to stand up, so we always piss off the management and get everyone up dancing around.
But actually, there was a little while we hadn't played there in Japan for a few years or something like that, and we went back and we went to see someone the night before we played, and it was like, I think it was Kenny G or something like that, or quite a sort of smooth jazz, and I thought, oh no, this is the end of us, you know.
Yeah.
And I decided I'd taken all the crazy clothes there, and I sort of like, I'm a bit of a punk rocker, and so the tables, you know, the stage is that way, and the tables go perpendicular. Is that right? Like that?
Yeah.
So and I'm thinking about it now. I'm kind of it's a horrific kind of like, well, oh no, the oh no's, you know, because I didn't want it to sort of be like a nice playing band, like getting old sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I just basically just walked on the tables and picked up people's glasses and rubbed them on the strings and like just did a mad one.
To the horror of the management, but
they
it's
didn't.
an unforgettable
We've
moment.
been back many times since.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that people really love to see that because like Japan has changed a lot since we first went there. But it's an amazing place to go because you're the only. There's no gaijin foreigners there.
Japan's incredible, I think.
Have you been to Japan? Yeah, it's and all the food is like a whole new palette of taste, unlike anywhere else of Europe or anything.
Yeah, it's amazing. Everything.
I love the food.
I find everything's an amazing experience in Japan. I can't even imagine what it's like to.
And then you go to
it's brilliant.
But the thing is, they've had a big history of jazz and funk and soul. You know, I think it was because of the war and the GIs or whatever they're called were there a lot, and there's a lot of American money that was invested into Japan after the war, after the big bomb. So there's lots of American influences in Japan for years and years. I mean, they know all of our music, and they know all the jazz and soul and stuff like that. So we went down well there, and lots of soul and funk bands do really well out there because they just have the taste for soul music
and rock across the board.
Yeah, everything.
Because at the time when one of the fashions in the acid jazz scene was finding these old Levi's, and they were called Salvage or Salvage. And when you did a little turn up, the lining of the jeans had a little white stripe and a little red line on it. And Big E Levi's, the old Levi's from like the 60s, early 70s, had a capital E in the word Levi's. They changed it to a small one, so it was like Big E Levi's and stuff. And they bought the looms to weave the denim from America, and they bought the indigo dye. So it was like so everyone's buying these indigo jeans, and there's this one shop that had every brand of jean and every.
We used to spend hours in there.
And you could buy a pair of jeans and they would cut them to your size. And the Edwins were the great flares because you had that banging tight at the top, kicking out like you look like
thick as cardboard. The denim was like cardboard.
Oh, amazing! Really, they also had like everything like Lois. You know Lois jeans. Remember those? Like, but everyone from the 50s right to the 60s, like the drain pipe. They just kind of.
They're obsessed. I mean,
just get everything and
they're
revive
collectors. I think they're actually
a
a nation of collectors, and we are as well because we collect old music, retro music, and old guitars. I remember once going there, and everyone was complaining that there are no vintage guitars left in America because they're all in Japan, all in Tokyo. You could buy any guitar from like any sort of version of Fender guitar there. So that's why we loved it so much because it's like going to a flea market, you know, and the whole of Tokyo is like a flea market basically for us.
Yeah, just from day one, it was just because they're so sort of worshipful and respectful. You can't help but not feel good, and then you sort of respect back, and it's kind of kind of something. It's quite unusual. I think the culture there is very different.
It seems to me that whatever interaction you have with anyone, large or small, they're doing everything they can to make it as positive as possible.
Yeah.
And that's something that you don't really realise when you're not there because you just hear this and that and you see pictures. But when you're there, you know, you're just in a shop buying a packet of crisps and they're doing everything to make you go out happy.
Beautiful.
And when that's extended to every meal and every interaction, okay, sometimes it's a bit.
If you're late at the airport, sometimes you're trying to get some toilets.
but then that's the bit you remember. Yeah. But really, just to try and constantly make the people around you happy. I mean, if we all did that, imagine.
Well,
that's why it's so lovely to be there. Constantly nice to be there.
Because you obviously.
Yeah, well, my wife's half Japanese, and I've been a couple of times to see family, and also I've been with work. And I think I remember seeing a dirty room there once, you know, and it was like a side door in a market.
Right.
Yeah. You know, other than that, everything.
Yes, it's lovely place.
Everything
And
done
I mean,
beautifully.
the cleanliness of the cars, like the taxis with the
Doilies.
plastic over the
taxis.
doilies, and the polish on them. They're like toys in a box.
You know, driver with white gloves.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, yeah, it's an awesome country.
And then you go there and you go and get. We had the keys to the city, going to clubs, jamming with other bands, dancing.
Have you been to the sumo? Have you ever been to watch the sumo wrestling?
No, I haven't done anything like that.
That's an experience.
We've got to do that next time.
That's a great experience. Because you
We
just go in the
should
middle
do
and
more
you
of that.
don't know what.
That'd be great.
If, like me, you don't speak Japanese, you just sit there and absorb, and you don't
Yeah.
need to. You just sit and watch for hours.
I love watching
It's amazing.
Japanese. I love watching the adverts. In any country, actually, if I don't understand the language, I watch the adverts for hours when I get into my room, and you can learn a lot about the culture from the ads. I've found,
Yeah,
because you know what they're trying to promote, or what people are into at that moment in time. And you know what, guys?
So we're out of time. So before
right,
we go, we need to say where we can find out more about your tour. So your website is brand new.
It's TBNH. Shall I say?
Yes,
anything?
please do. Say whatever you need to say. I was hoping you'd rescue me then.
If you want to find out any more about the Brand New Heavies and where we're touring and what we're doing over the next few months, go to tbnh.co.uk or TBNH or Brand New Heavies Instagram and Brand New Heavies Facebook
I'm
and Brand
writing
New
it down.
Heavies
I'm writing it down.
Twitter.
Yeah, we have the. You cut
I don't know that.
tbnh.co.uk, and it's Brand New Heavies, and there's an underscore somewhere on Instagram,
Facebook,
isn't it?
yeah,
This is
I
why.
don't know the
This is why.
Facebooky
This is
ones.
how we can tell. What I'm going to do. I'm going to put that in our. I'll check
Okay.
it and I'll put it in afterwards. This
Yeah.
is where you know that you're rock stars of the 90s, and you don't have to be bothered with all this modern nonsense.
Oh
Sadly,
yeah, that's true.
Sadly, we've all got to do it. It's part of the game, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
We're
yeah.
just kicking
I
and
do need to
screaming.
learn it, and
And so I have to say, Simon Bartholomew and Andrew Levy from the Brand New Heavies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've
very
said
much.
where people can find out more. You're touring soon. Word from your sponsors. You have a CBD sponsor, Truth Naturals, who's helping you.
Amazing.
I
I recommend that. Really check it
helping
out.
you stay
Peace
aches
of
and
mind,
pains at bay.
healthy mind, healthy body.
Anxiety, exactly. All right, gents, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
thank you so much.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Cheers. Thanks again to the Brand New Heavies, Simon Bartholomew and Andrew Levy. Ticket information in case you messed it up just back then. The website is TBNH, the Brand New Heavies, tbnh.co.uk. They're the Brand New Heavies on Instagram and elsewhere. Healthy Beast is at Healthy Beast Podcast on Instagram and healthybeastpodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening.